folks, and welcome to the 10th episode of Real Money Moves. I'm your host, Connor Gillen, and on today's episode, I have an incredibly special guest coming to join us here in the studio. Today's guest has served the Needham Public Schools for almost 20 years and has been in the forefront of crafting a reputable and highly sought-after public school system here in Needham. Without further ado, I introduce you, Superintendent Dan Gutekanst. Dan, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate having you down.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, so I wanted to have you come in to talk to us today about the public school system, Needham, how it's an incredibly exciting environment right now for families with kids in the schools and all that. So tell me, how did we get to this point? Because everyone I work with in town, whether they're looking to buy in Needham or whether they're looking to sell in Needham, they're always talking about the school systems. How did we get here?
Well, Needham has had a tradition of caring about its young people for a very long time, for generations. I mean, the football rivalry goes back well over 100 years, and I really would say that that's as many years as this community wraps its arm around its children and prioritizes education.
Absolutely.
And really thinks about what kids need pre-K through 12. And we're fortunate, I'm fortunate working in a community that really places pride in its educational programs, provides resources when they're tight in other communities, and really engages their families, students, and community members in trying to develop a strong program that will allow our students to be empowered learners and propel them to success after they graduate. So it's not new, it's really what Needham has become over these many years.
Yeah, and the reputation has been that strong for that long. So what does the future hold for the Needham Public Schools? I know a lot of people always talk about the redevelopment of Pollard potentially, or some other things have been mentioned like that. What does the future hold?
Well, I think it's exciting, and I think it's challenging at the same time. We are really in the first few years of introducing the community to what we call the portrait of a Needham graduate.
Sure.
The portrait of a Needham graduate is a vision for what we want for our children in this 21st century. It's the skills, it's the attributes, it's the competencies that we want them to have so that they can be successful beyond high school.
Sure.
So that story is something that we've been trying to tell, and we've been trying to infuse in our classrooms, how they can communicate more closely, how they can learn to collaborate with one another, how they can receive strong academic content, all working together so they can be successful learners. So that's a big priority, and that's ongoing. And as you mentioned, there are some other things happening. We're on the cusp of perhaps working with the state, and if the taxpayers in Needham will support it, completely renovating Pollard and creating again a 6-8 middle school campus, pulling the students from High Rock and bringing them back on campus to create a strong program and to finally provide the kind of space that we need at Pollard, which is a 1958 era school.
Oh, I remember it very well. Yeah, I remember it very well.
It's exceeded its life, and it's time for a significant renovation there. So we're excited about that. And just the work of our students, the things that they're doing both inside and outside the classroom through music and athletics, volunteering, empowering their voice to talk about equity and inclusion and anti-racism.
Absolutely.
Our students are amazing in how they share their talents with the community and think about others. So a lot of good things are going on, and will for a while.
That's amazing. So with that potential transition, the students that are in the 6th grade at High Rock would be with the 7th and 8th graders at Pollard.
Yes, and what we would like to do, because we love the 6th grade at High Rock, we kind of fell into it a bit accidentally, but over these last 10, 12 years, the community's really appreciated that 6th grade experience, kind of the gateway to the middle school.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we want to model that and capture that on the Pollard campus to create a school within a school so that we can still preserve that 6th grade only feeling while taking advantage of a bigger school, auditorium, cafeteria, media center. So a lot of work ahead of us, and we're not even out of the starting gate yet, because the state still needs to agree to fund us, and taxpayers have to agree to have their tax rates and their tax bills increased to support this. But
course.
this community has stepped up so many times before that I hope we can provide the information they need to make some good decisions about the future of Pollard.
Absolutely. That's great. That's great. Now, I graduated in 2013. From that point in time, what do you think has changed the most within the school?
I guess I look at it K through 12. I think a couple things have happened since you've graduated. First of all, the use of technology and social media is really on steroids since you were last at
It was
Needham High School.
it was brand new when I was in high school. Yeah,
Really brand new, and there weren't students that had laptops or iPads or devices with them, and now we have a device for every child. Now, for some, that's good and that's bad, but we actually judiciously and thoughtfully use laptops and iPads and devices in school. But along with that, outside of school, the advent of social media has had a really strong and not always a positive effect on our young people.
Absolutely.
I worry that our young people are too enmeshed in social media, and so that's something I think as parents and as educators we have to continue to think about and put parameters and guidelines around. The other thing that happened since you graduated, and it happened to all of us, is COVID.
Of course.
And COVID certainly did change, I think, the trajectory of the workplace around the country, around the world, and also education in some ways. Students lost some habits. They lost a drive during the pandemic that we are still trying to recapture. Making sure that our students are resilient, that they can face challenges is something that we're always working on, and I know parents are working on as well.
Absolutely.
It's been a little bit more of a challenge in recent years, though. But again, I think with the support of our community, with caring parents, and with teachers who are tenacious and working hard, we really are trying to use technology in appropriate ways, helping young people to kind of put the pandemic and some of the ills of the pandemic behind them so that they can be successful.
That's excellent. Yeah, I could only imagine, being a freshman in 2020, having that happen to you and having your first couple of years of high school sort of be either remote or just, obviously very much affected. So to hear that is fantastic.
The other thing I'll add to that, and I think really there are three, and that is there has been, I think, in some ways I'll call it a social justice awakening in the country.
Sure.
Certainly in the aftermath of George Floyd's murder, Needham was thinking about inequities and racism long before then, but I think Needham, like many other communities, is really thinking more thoughtfully, more diligently about how we can help marginalized students of color, for example, be more successful in school.
Absolutely,
it's not taking anything away from white students, for example. We're trying to provide for some of our students that historically have not had the same levels of achievement. So I think all of those things combined have really made schooling a little different, and it's also pretty exciting to work right now.
Yeah, that's really impressive. No, that's great to hear. So are there any new programs or activities or sort of groups or clubs that are at the high school now? Anything new and exciting?
Oh, one of my jobs as superintendent, it's a small job, is I get to sign off on all the clubs that are started every year.
Nice.
And the creativity I just signed a new club for the Garden Club. There was an anime club and a beekeeping club and a chess club all this year. All these different clubs that students, they get excited and they want to start. But there's certainly all kinds of activities. I mean, our musicians just performed at Symphony Hall over this weekend from the high school.
Amazing.
Our girls swim team took the state championship. We had a young man who's the state champion diver on the boys team. And all of the various art students at the high school and at Pollard are gearing up for art shows this spring to showcase their talent. I mean, Needham has talented, energetic, really caring kids. Of course, they come from the families, like your family,
of course,
that provided that foundation and that support. So it's a neat time to be in the schools, particularly in the spring as we gear up for a lot of springtime activities.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. Now, you're big on Twitter. I follow you a lot on Twitter. And
X.
You're big on X. and every snow day, I'll see some either kind of like cryptic or suspicious kind of message, maybe some eye emojis with the weather forecast. What's your snow day routine look like? I've always been curious.
Okay.
Even from when I was in high school, when we didn't have the access to X or Facebook or any of that where we could connect with you directly. Was always very curious what the snow day routine looked like.
And people do connect with me. Students are not shy with connecting with me about having a snow day.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I guess the way I would put it, my routine is this, because I live 45 minutes away in Shrewsbury.
Sure.
If there is snow predicted overnight, I set the alarm for 2:30 or 3. I get out of the house, get in the car, drive to Needham. I do that because I want to assess the conditions on the Turnpike, on Route 9, on 95. These are the roads that our staff will be riding, or our students from Boston. And then I drive around Needham to see what the conditions are like. And I'm not crazy about snow days. I want kids to be in school. So that's usually the default. We're going to come to school. Unless that snow is getting a little deeper. To me, a little deeper is, 3 or 4 inches or more, 4 or 5. Ice is a whole different thing. But then by 5 o'clock in the morning, after I've consulted with DPW and the police, maybe checked in with another superintendent locally, then I'll make a decision if we're going to have school or delay. So it begins in preparation the night before and getting up at 3, getting to Needham, assessing the circumstances, and then making a decision, and then sending out those messages either through X or Twitter or an email blast to our families. There was a recent day, though, unfortunately, that was a disaster because the weather people got it all wrong.
I heard about that.
Yeah. There was no snow. It was fake news.
Canceled school, and then there was no snow.
Oh,
but then you must get. People must love you for that. They must be tweeting at you, "Hey, thank you
for
canceling school today." No.
Well,
or maybe the parents say, "Hey, my kid should be in school. There's no snow on the ground." Right.
Students are generally happy. Parents are not. You made a wrong call. But I hear that one way or the other. Doesn't matter what the call is. Someone's on the other side of it. I'm not worried about that anymore. I don't pay attention to any of those voices. I just try to focus on what's going to be the safest thing for our kids.
Absolutely.
And in this day and age, with 4-wheel drive and big wheels and safe roads, I think we can have school rather than not. But safety is the priority, and maybe even occasionally having a little bit of fun on Twitter too.
I love it. I love it. That's great. Now, I know you went to Holy Cross, so you got to tell me about some of your favorite restaurants out in Worcester. I have some good, nice friends and family out in that area.
Okay.
We go to the restaurants out there pretty often, and they're always talking about what their favorite ones are, and it's always a big conversation. So I need to hear from you what your favorite restaurants are around Worcester.
Okay. Boy, let me think about that. Well, first of all, Miss Wu's Diner, which is underneath a bridge on Southbridge Street, might look a little sketchy, but it's awesome for breakfast. Breakfast usually about 1 o'clock in the morning. That's a good place to stop at. Armsby Abbey, which is on Main Street in Worcester, is an awesome farm-to-table restaurant. They have a great selection of drinks and beer, but the meals are outstanding, and that is a classic go-to place for me and my family. We recently were at Table 12, which is right outside Worcester in West Boylston. Really nice, simple place, but great food. Are
you a frequent at the Golden Star Cafe by any chance?
I don't think I've been to the Golden Star Cafe yet.
That's a phenomenal diner.
Okay.
You have to check out if you're in the area.
I've been to the Bully the Bully Diner on Shrewsbury Street, but I haven't been to the Golden Star. Golden Star.
Yeah.
I will have to check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Dan, thank you again so much for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure chatting with you. And thank you for sharing insight with our viewers about what's going on in the school system. It's invaluable, and we really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
If you have any questions or miscellaneous real estate needs, please feel free to reach out to me at the contact info on your screen. I'd be delighted to help community members and Needham Channel viewers alike. And if there are any topics or trends that viewers would like me to discuss on the next show, be sure to send them along and I will bring them up on the next show. I'm Connor Gillen from Real Money Moves, and I'll see you real soon.